How are you?
We're good yourself.
I'm well, thank you. Just to start off, I'd like to welcome you all to our first ever family function discussion. All right. My name is Charity Ngubeni, for those of you who don't know me. I'm a social worker at Rata Social Services. I'm also the community developer there. I have 6 years of work experience there. And so this project basically was constructed so that we can create awareness to the public and the community about the concept of families, but with the perspectives of different social service professionals involved. Hence, I asked you from all different professionals to just join us so that we can hear your perspective about this concept of family. So I'm just going to firstly ask each and every one of you to introduce yourself and give us a little bit of a bio about yourself. And then afterwards, I will continue with basically who is Rata, what is the organization about, so that I can let you know that. Izelle, sorry, can you please start?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Izelle Jenkins, and I'm an attorney in private practice at Jenkins Incorporated. I fortunately or unfortunately deal with a lot of family law matters in the Children's Court and as well as the High Court.
Please.
Good morning to everyone. My name is Prophetess Sharon Kasongo, a senior pastor of Covenant Remnant Ministries International. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. I've been a pastor for the past 12 years right now. And yes, as a pastor, I deal with families almost every day. So I believe the discussion today is going to be very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Khensani Mabobo. I'm clinical psychologist, 15 years experienced, currently based at Bopilong Clinic, or rather, let me say Pretoria West Clinics. Yeah, I personally deal with a lot of individuals, but at the end of it all, the family forms part of the healing journey or the recovery journey, sometimes even being the problem, the cause of the individual coming to see us. So let's just see how the day goes. I'm looking forward to hearing from colleagues as well how they approach challenges that we face. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. My name is Thuli. I am a professional nurse in mental health, Pretoria West, specifically Denville Clinic. I'm accompanying my colleague. So I'm also looking forward to this beautiful day and this beautiful conversation.
Thank you so much for joining us. A professional nurse
Mm.
in mental health. Jackpot. Yes. Thank you so much, my dear. All right. So let me just start off with who Rata Social Services is, just so that I can give you guys an idea of the organization that called you here all. Okay. Rata Social Services is a child protection organization. We are accredited with the Department of Social Development to be a child protection organization, and we are also a registered NPO. So the majority of our services that we deal with children and families, particularly children and families who are in vulnerable circumstances, particularly also children who have are victims of abuse, whether it be sexual abuse, physical abuse, any form of abuse, as well as neglect. So we all know that it takes a village to raise a child. So even though a child might be a victim of abuse, the family system also carries weight on how the child is brought up and how the child heals. And whatever happens to the child does also affect the family itself. So, our job basically comes in where we have to make sure that we safeguard the child. Most and foremost, our client is the child when it comes to statutory practices. So, we aim to basically safeguard the child and also to work with the family as well. After removing a child from a circumstance that might particularly harm their well-being, we also work with the families as well to make sure that the reunification process is as smooth as possible, and that the child is integrated into a family that is functional and suitable for that child. So one of the services that we give to our families, we also do your parenting skills. It can also be co-parenting skills, whereby we assist parents to be able to have the parental capacity, or to encourage or incapacitate their parental capacity towards children, to be able to create a stronger bond with their children. And for parents who are having co-parenting issues or challenges rather, we assist them with training in terms of how they can communicate with each other, how to best learn how to communicate as co-parents, because a lot of our cases that we get from the children's court are also from parents who are in custody battles, where one parent wants access of the child and the other one does not refuse or may not refuse, or it's a different merit for each case. But such cases we also do attend to as well. We also assist with mediation. We do mediation services. We help families do parenting plans. And a parenting plan, basically, if I can elaborate on that, is it's a tool that we use whereby co-parents who would like to have a better way of co-parenting their child for the best interest of the child, we assist them by developing what is called this co-parenting plan. It's a document whereby both parents are there, and then a facilitator, or it can be a social worker or a mediator, is able to discuss the different concepts or the different aspects of parenting, such as the primary care of the child, who's going to have the primary residence of the child, who's going to pay maintenance, how much the maintenance will be, when will the child see the other parent for visitations, is it supervised visitations, is it unsupervised, where the child's going to go for Christmas, holidays, and all of those documents. So that document is basically then turned into a court order after all the parties agree on it. And then each party gets their own copy, and it is a living document. The reason why we call it a living document is because the child is growing. So as the child grows, we also change it as the child grows, because circumstances don't stay the same forever. So now we also do make the exception of going back to court to amend the parenting plan for the child at the request of the parent as well. So we also do adoptions as well. Rata is also accredited to do adoptions. And we also do community work. With community work, we have a project that we are running that it's currently getting a lot of momentum. I was telling Izelle about it. It's called Connecting Souls. Connecting Souls, this is basically whereby we are recruiting volunteers. Uh, Basic everyday, your everyday mom and dad you can be married, you can be single, whichever. We don't discriminate in terms of the anyone who can come in. So this is whereby we train you and we give you the skills to become an alternative place of safety parent. The reason for this is because when children are being removed from their home due to whatever abusive circumstance the child might face, the child must be placed in an accredited place of safety. Now, the word for that is called a CYCC, or a Child and Youth Care Center, right? And these youth care centers are accredited by the Department of Social Development. Now, the challenge that we are experiencing with this is because basically some of them might be full at the time where you want to place the child. Some of them, they don't have the programs that they have might not cater to the need of the child. And some of them, it might be a restriction of age, because some of them, they tell you that we are only taking kids from this age to this, or this particular gender, or this particular sex. All right. So now the reason why we've decided to now train and recruit volunteers is because we are trying to bridge this gap to make as many resources available to the child as possible. So when we train these individuals, we train them in all aspects of what is an alternative care parent. We train you on what is a foster care parent. We train you on what is a place of safety parent. We train you on also what is adoption. We train you on how to become a cluster home, like what is required to be a cluster home, what is required for a CYCC to be functional. We also take you through the statutory or the court process from the moment the child is brought into your home, what documents are needed. From the moment you're supposed to get a court order, what must happen? From the time where there's supposed to be a finalization, what must happen? What are the professionals you would meet with? And also, we are also looking at what other type of services that will be rendered to them, and also we are informing them of the accreditations that they might need, the things that they might need to be accredited with the Department of Social Development. And also basically we also share with them the different developmental stages of children, that child from infancy to, the infancy towards 2 years old, what happens, from 3 years old to 5 years old, what happens, from preschool, what happens, teenagehood, what happens. We take you throughout that whole journey. So after we do that, it is at the discretion of the volunteer whether they would like to continue, or if maybe they might feel a bit overwhelmed by the whole thing. But the main aim of doing that program is so that we empower them with as much knowledge as possible, so that they know what they're getting themselves into when they agree towards doing it. Because what we've seen a lot is you'd get parents who would say, I want to be an alternative care parent, I want to be foster parent, but you don't know what's actually required to do that. So the moment you get to know what you're signing yourself up for, you're able to make an informed decision for yourself and ultimately for the child as well. So after we do that, if should you agree to continue with the process, if you are within our demarcation area, then we will screen you. After screening you, we will take your application towards the Department of Social Development so that you can be an alternative care parent and help you with all the accreditations. If you are not within our area, we then communicate with the child protection organization that is in your area to do that screening for us. And then we'll take the application towards the Department of Social Development for you. So whenever there's a child who is in need of a temporary placement, then you are on our database. We can give you a call also. So we also have vegetable garden projects that we are running, whereby we empower families to build their own micro gardens, because we all know that food shortage in South Africa, it's an issue. So empowering families to be able to be self-sufficient is one of the core elements that Rata is focused on. So this vegetable garden project is run by my colleague, Missy Dumeling Mansiwa, and she makes sure that she visits these families on a weekly basis, and she assists them to be able to cultivate that garden. And should that garden be cultivated and grow to a point where it's a lot, we even go to an extent where we will connect you to individuals who will assist you towards looking at eco farming, then also be able to train you how to do it on a larger scale and then on economic scale, where you'll be able to make a profit for yourself. So with that, also another one that we have with our group works, as I indicated, that it's mostly parenting skills that we offer as well. But we also have one that is paramount, and this is close to my heart. It's called emotional regulation, whereby it's for children at school age going children, as particularly primary school. So we're still working on one for teenagers. This is whereby we are assisting these learners how to regulate their emotions, because a lot of them, they have a lot of anger issues, and teachers don't know what to do with them. And it gets to a point where now a child is labeled at school because they don't necessarily know what's going on in the mind of the child, in the emotions of the child, and at home as well. So what these sessions aim to do, we use art and color therapy in our sessions. We help with system to use colors to be able to identify their emotions, and we also give them coping skills of how to deal with these emotions. We help them identify what type of emotions that they are feeling, because one that comes to mind is recently we did one with learners in Capital Park Primary School, and it was with, I think it was grade sevens. A lot of our learners were saying, I'm depressed, I'm anxious. But you'd find that they weren't using it in the right context. So we used that opportunity to have a discussion with them. What is depression? What is anxiety? Being able to differentiate between these emotions is very important so that they know, oh, okay, this is where I must group my emotions. This is how it must feel. This is what it must be like. So we do a lot of that in schools. So far, I think we've done close to 31 learners, because we started this in somewhere in September. So far we've done 31 learners, and it's something that we are continuing also next year. And we were blessed and fortunate to have been trained by a private social worker called a listener. She's actually a counselor. She was a counselor, a listener, and with the assistance of Mass. I'm not sure if you know Mass. It's a social work private practice where they do mediation, they do forensic assessments, and they do social emotional assessments as well. Yes. It's run by Mrs. Stau. They are the ones who are actually also helping us with trainings, because we've partnered with them to train us as professionals to be able to take it out into the community. So I think I've said a mouthful about that. But yes, basically this is the organization that would like to partner with you in this journey towards actually discovering and assisting the general public and our community, and shedding the light on the type of issues that we face as professionals with regards to the family system. Now, if we could just get into the first question. All right. So, with the first question, what I would like to do is I'll read out the question, and then we'll answer it each profession at a time. All right. Okay, so our first question says, what is the concept of family according to your profession? Would you like to start, Elise?
Okay, so basically in the legal profession, it's mostly defined by legal relationships. That can be by marriage, blood relationships, and the focus is mostly on the rights and obligations, rights and responsibilities you have within a family unit. And then also what defines a family unit. It's not only the legal definition, the legal relationships you have, but overall social structures affected as well. Because in terms of Section 23 of the Children's Act, basically any person who has an interest in a child can approach the children's school to obtain certain rights and responsibilities. So, and I think in today's time, you see it more and more often. She previously said it takes a village to raise a child. So it's more and more that you see that extended family members, close family friends step in to fulfill the role of family where the family is not capable. So it's focused on the rights and responsibilities.
Right. Thank you so much. And please feel free to ask questions, okay? Let's not restrict ourselves. If there's something you need to know about the legal profession, please do so. If it's something you need to know about social work, please do so that we are interacting with each other, right? So on my side, in terms of social work, the family system is not far from your definition, actually, because with us, how we view families is that basically it's inclusive of all the family dynamics that we see, and it's not only your family of origin, but it's blended families, it's extensions, it's aunts, it's uncles, and it can vary a lot in terms of the way in which they interact, because with our concern when it comes to social work, when we look at the family system, we look at basically the dynamics, how you each interact with each other within the family system. When we do our investigations, there's a part in our psychosocial investigation where we look at the family relationship. In that aspect, we want to know who gets along with who doesn't get along with who, for what reason, what is the methods that this family uses in terms of discipline, what is the method that you use in terms of conflict resolutions. So we look at it from that aspect because we want to see if this family dynamic is able to produce a conducive result for the children that are raised within this family. So, yes, we look at it from that point of view also, and we are very inclusive of all of the aspects that are there, because let's not forget, we also have now same sex families. So, we have to make an exception for them as well. And we also have to look at also how they are able to work out their family dynamics as well. Thank you. Pastor Sharon?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. So, family concept, according to my profession, it will always take me back to who is the one who instituted families. And when you go to the book of Genesis, we find that God is the one who came with the idea of a family. We are discovering Adam and Eve. That's the foundation of everything. So, whenever you read the Bible, you always find the genealogy that shows that everyone comes from a family. And God said in Genesis that be fruitful and multiply. So everything started from a family between husband and a wife. So the concept of family, we always go back to the one who instituted an idea of a family, and that's God. And if, according to my profession, if we want to understand more what family is about, God will always explain to us the purpose of a family. That is what family is all about. Everything, everyone is connected into a family between, it starts with marriage and it connects to everything, uncles, aunties, siblings, everything started from the marriage. That is the concept of family according to my profession. Thank you.
I'd like to please ask on the, you just mentioned that it starts from marriage. What now do we do for today's society? Because a lot of our families today, the partners are not particularly married. Some are cohabiting partners, some are long-term partners, or some are life partners actually, and there's no marital tie there. How is it that you're able to cater for them, or how is the service towards them?
Yeah, because we, as I said, that the intention of God was to build families between marriages, but looking at the time evolved and everything changed, and we also came with our own concept of marriages. So as a pastor, it means that I normally stick on the concept of God. But if I have to find a case where it's what you mentioned is a long-term partners and all that, we just have to explain to those long-term partners, because the most important people in that relationship is the children, as you have said. So we have now to come to train them on the parenting, on how to parent this beautiful soul that they are raising, because obviously the concept of family has changed over time. So at some point we need to always adjust or adopt to the cases that we are encountering with, having to cater the children as well.
Thank you so much for that. Sis Khensani?
Yeah, in my profession, the concept of family, I think you'd attest to that when I charity that when we are interviewing clients, we would ask the type of family you come from. Nuclear family system where there is mother, father, and the children. that sort of signifies maybe stability within the family system. When there is then no mother, father living together, then somehow we automatically would know that there might be instability within the family system. And then there is extended family systems where there is aunts, other relatives that, especially in our culture, Black culture, they assist in raising the children. Sometimes it's not really about raising them from childhood, but an element of support. Olden times, you'd find that a cousin would come visit this family, whether it's an uncle, so that he's closer to the schooling system. That type of support, then it was very significant. But as we say, things have evolved. Such things don't happen anymore. Therefore, a sense of what family is actually lost. But what we're benefiting from that sense of family, let me not put it to just the one or the two, but what we're benefiting from is where morals are developed, principles are developed, discipline is developed, love is developed, hope is developed, respect is developed. So it's an important part of development of being human. And that's why when we are now living in times like this where there is no sense of family, there is a whole lot of chaos, there is a whole lot of disorientation, there is a whole lot of disrespect. I mean, as we can see our teenagers, the way they're going about, it's because the families are fragmented. Therefore, we have lost that sense of those morals, those values, the discipline. Because in olden times, my elderly neighbor, we would call even them Amani, Mamholo, because of that element of respect. They would come and discipline me. And I had that respect to adhere to whatever that they're saying. So now that doesn't exist anymore. And we are now moving towards yeah, it's scary. It's really scary. So yeah, and a family gave a sense of belonging. You would know that it's simple, like as I was saying, if I move here and go to Polokwane, there is an aunt there. So automatically I would belong with them there. I won't feel lost when I get to Polokwane. That doesn't exist anymore. So for me, that is how a sense of family is. Mm.
It's very true what you're saying because just to add on what you said when you said that even extended family members could just come in and be your parent. You knew that in my family there's aunts, there's uncles. I respect them all. They are all my elders. And if my biological parent dies, the child will still remain in the family system. The challenge we are facing today is that they don't. They don't. And it now stretches towards further. I don't know how to phrase this, but I've seen a lot of the clients that we get when a biological parent passes on. Now there's left this concept of who's going to be looking after this child. Traditionally what happens is the family gets together, we have a discussion, okay, who do we think might be able to care for this child? For those who want to volunteer, they'll volunteer, I'll look after that child. But now what do people put forward? Money. How am I going to look after this child? And then you'd get some of family members who are saying, you must go to the social workers. The social workers will handle it. Oh, you see. And when the families come to us, I found this very disturbing when I first started in my practice. After a child would pass on, and families would come and say, especially like grandparents and your aunts and uncles, I'd like to apply for foster care. Why are you applying for foster care? The child the child is an orphan. The child is an orphan, okay? How is the child an orphan? No, the biological father is not, we don't know who the biological father is. Number one, you don't know who the biological father is. How does that happen? You are my child. You become pregnant. And then as a parent, I don't sit you down and ask you who's responsible. In our family, in our cultures, we are supposed to be interacting. If you are the parent, if you are the person responsible or for impregnating my child, I should be able to come to you as the extended parent and say, listen, children have done this. What are we going to do about it as parents? Because why? According to the law, a child who is under the age of 18, they don't have any parental rights and responsibilities towards that child if they are pregnant. So now the responsibility of that child or that baby who's on the way falls on the parent of that child who is pregnant. That's what the law says. So now these parents must now get together and talk about how are we going to raise this upcoming child. But now if you're saying you don't know who the biological father is, what happened when she told you that she was pregnant? What did you do as a family? Did you just say, nah, okay, she's pregnant, that's right, so what? This is where it starts breaking the family system now. Why are we not continuing with what we know has been happening for years? If I know that my child was impregnated by Sipho that side, why can't I go to Sipho's parents and have a conversation about this? You see, so it's one of the things that it baffled me for a long time.
I think what the issue is there is people still have this set mindset dating back when, and the judgment, the judgment they put on the others. If you are not married, the shame you brought upon the family. So I think what's absent in these families are to say, listen, you can make mistakes. Mistakes happen. I'm not saying if you get pregnant, it's a mistake, but things happen. You should take responsibility for it. But due to that parents' actions previously, they create a mistrust because there's also a thing that comes back a very long way. And I think everyone has heard it is children should be seen and not heard. And there's a lot of people still believe that. And that is unfortunately not the case. Even the Children's Act is quite clear about that. So the children are brought up into this. We see you, you are not heard. So they don't have that openness to approach and say, listen, I'm sitting with this situation. So they hide it. That's why you get the babies in the dustbin. And it all boils down to mutual respect, love, and communication in the family. And to accept the other person for who they are. So I don't think there's enough people who realize there is support out there. But you need to be open, honest. Don't be judgmental because you will only push that person away. And then approach the right organization for help. It's the same if the parent or the maternal family or the paternal family is not in a position. I don't think everyone knows that there's alternatives. Even that anybody can actually, who has an interest in that child, can approach the court to get formalities in place to get parental rights and responsibilities over this child. So I don't think there's enough knowledge about that because you tend to find that the child is born and just taken into the system, then the child is there and the child's there, but there's no documentation. There's no process followed. And to think about it, you can go to court and it doesn't cost you anything. And I don't think people are aware of that.
When you say that, it actually comes to mind that, there are actually people who think that an affidavit is a legal document that binds you to have parental rights and responsibility, and it's not. It's not. We've gotten a lot of people who said, no, my sister said that I could look after the child and she gave me an affidavit. And when you read the affidavit, it says, I, whoever, hereby give my sister, whoever, the permission to parent my child. And in my mind, I'm like, we need to empower our people with knowledge because the only entity or the only organ that can give power of parental rights and responsibility, it's the court. That's the only entity that can give power towards having those responsibilities.
Yeah, I feel like it's a privilege to be sitting here. I've been a pastor for the past 12 years, and we have dealt with cases with different children coming from disadvantaged communities. And most of the time, we didn't know what to do with these children. We just empower them with the word of God, but still they go back to the same situation. And I think that as a pastor, I think the reason why we're not getting so much solution what to do with the children is there's not much education. For me now, sitting here, it's an awareness is coming. There are organizations that you can partner with as a pastor to help this child, but yet we didn't know. So I think because we can see that the concept of family has broken. So how do we mitigate this problem now? And I see now sitting here, I see the role of a church, the role of community leaders, the role of, so if we partner with organization like yours with education, then we'll be able to mitigate this problem, because I see it is even growing even more and more almost every day. So it's a privilege, and I'm praying that this kind of discussion will reach as many people and as many pastors and other organizations as we could, so that we can help these young ones to grow in a family. Now the family is there whole world. It's no longer a nucleus family. Now it's the whole family, the whole South Africa, we are family. But we need education like this. We need awareness like this, so that we can connect together, become one, and mitigate the same problem, because we are faced with this problem together. Mm.
I also, as we are discussing, I'm also noticing that we need to work more on, I don't know whether to call it empowering or educating or supporting the fathers, because I think that's where it starts. Like you had said, they don't know who the father is. Chances are, when this young lady got pregnant, went to the boyfriend, I'm pregnant, said it's not my child. So she comes back home saying, not knowing what to say to the mother, because the boyfriend said it's not me. So the minute I'm thinking, let's say she's 16 years old. The minute the boyfriend said it's not me, I don't think she would tell the her parents who the family is, because she's afraid the boyfriend would do something or say something, and the family will also reject. So we also need to also, and I know it's happening somewhere, but it's not just coming up in a way that is forceful, that fathers also need to take accountability. Boyfriends take accountability. And if you know you somehow interacted with a young lady, at least wait for the DNA, then take responsibility. Not just to simply from beginning say, it's not me, because the family comes back saying as well, it's not our child. So that's why we all now living with single parents, which are just mothers or grandparents, and that's why now we are in the state that we are.
To add on what you said, you know, the with Home Affairs, no, they've introduced the unabridged birth certificates. One of the reasons this was introduced was because, you know, at first it was first the abridged birth certificate, it was only the child, right? Then it moved from just being the child to the child and mother. Now it's moved from child, mother, and father. Why? When it came to social work, and we would ask whoever is caring for that child at the particular time, we're doing a psychosocial investigation. So now, if you come and you say you would like to apply for foster care because the child is an orphan, okay, we need firstly the documents that we need. It was the birth certificate of the child. It was the death certificate of whichever parent. The child could either be a paternal orphan or a maternal orphan, or if it's a double orphan, then it's both these birth certificates. Then we also needed the identity of the person who was doing the application. Now, the challenge came in, as I was indicating, we don't know who the father is. Now we ask, okay, let's get information of the father. The mother passed on, we have the death certificate of the mother. Then the father, who's the father? We don't know who the father is. Why don't you know where the father is? No, we didn't ask, you didn't tell us. That's the general response that we get. No? Then afterwards, what we're supposed to do, according to the law, we're supposed to put out an advertisement. No? We're supposed to put out an advertisement to try and trace this biological father. So this advertisement can either be done through a private, it can be a private news outlet like Pretoria News because it's national. So it will be at the cost of the applicant though, and we'll put out this ad and we will let it run for a month. Then, if for a month we don't get any responses, then we continue with the application. All right. And sometimes, even now, right now, most of the organization, we do this advertisement through the Department of Social Development because they put it in the Daily Sun newspaper. So we give them all the information according to the format that they want. We submit everything, and then each and every time the Daily Sun newspaper goes out, you as a social worker have to make sure you buy that newspaper or you go to GSD itself because they do deliver like bunches of newspapers for them. Then you have to go there and open. There's a section in Daily Sun. If you go and check, go and check. In Daily Sun, there's a section where there is social services advertising for parents. There's a special section in the Daily Sun for that. So that's the technique that we use. And then if there is no response, then we obviously carry on. And now the birth certificates, our families are not fully understanding the concept of why the biological father needs to be there. The reason why the father needs to be there is so that should anything happen to the biological mother, we know who is the surviving parent, the father. The father, if they are on the birth certificate, they are able to, number one, assist the child with a ID application. They are able to assist the child with an ID application in the absence of the mother. Because if the father is not on on the birth certificate of the child, then the person who has the same surname as the mother or the maternal side of the family, they are the only ones who can assist that child now. Now, what happens if we can't trace them? It's a challenge on its own as well. And one thing that our families don't quite understand is they feel like the moment you add the name of the father on the birth certificate and they say Ganyalela. Ganyalela means he's not married to my child. No lobola, no damages were paid, no nothing. Birth certificate has nothing to do with that. Whether damages were paid or not paid, whether lobola was paid or not paid, it doesn't matter. The father must be there for the sake of the child. It's for the sake of the child. So that's one thing that when I do these awarenesses in communities, especially with the older communities, yeah. No. He must first marry them. I'm like, no, mama, it doesn't work like that. The father must be there because we need to know how to trace the paternal side of the family should anything happen to the child.
But I also don't think they realize they have a legal obligation if the father is known to record it. And there can be consequences for not reporting it. And I don't think they realize that, or they don't care.
Are you aware, perhaps, of the consequences that are like legally?
I will have to check into that for you. However, I know what also happens at the children's court is if you are not registered as the father and you know you are the father of this child and the mother refused to add you on the birth certificate, you can actually approach the children's court and they can make an order for you to be added to the birth certificate, whether the mother likes it or not.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. Sissy, would you mind explaining to us what's the concept of family in your profession?
Yeah, in addition to all that has been said already, remember a human being is not just um an individual. Like she already said that it takes a village to raise a person, a child. So we see it oftenly when patients come for a consultation. You will realize it when now you ask, who is your next of kin? Then they scratch their heads mostly because they are coming from broken families. Like she already mentioned that the partner refused the pregnancy. Now the lady goes back to the family to report the pregnancy. Her family, they might as well deny her that no, you went all out there at the 16 years of age. You went all out alone. You did one, two, three. Now you're pregnant. We are chasing you out of this house because now you are a woman. So you must see to finish. So like she said that that's where the broken families starts, and then now the collaboration and the treating patient in a holistical way also is a challenge in our side because now you don't know the next of kin. And then in elderly, now when you're supposed to discharge them, you don't know the family, no relatives, nobody has ever visited the client. So now you are stuck with this particular patient. Now that's when you go to social development and then involve the media, like you have already mentioned. Like who has said that health is not only um, absence of illness, but also socially, mentally, and all that. We need to be mindful of that. When we care for patients, it's not just an object. You need to know that you are interacting with an individual who comes from a certain family, a certain community, a mother, a father figure, wherever they come from. So nowadays, like already you have all mentioned that we are not seeing that happening anymore. One man for himself. Yeah.
Just to also touch on what you said, we've been saying a lot, attaching like age towards pregnancy. What is the legal age for consent in children? Consent to sexual activity? Because I remember, I think it was 2 years ago, we were told that the Department of Education had a new legislation that they had put in place where they indicated that a child who is 16 years old and older can give consent towards having sex, because this was done to try to mitigate teenage pregnancies in schools. So they said that if a child is 15 years old or younger and they fall pregnant, it's statutory rape. Even if it can be that that person responsible for the pregnancy was a boyfriend or whatever, it's constituted as statutory rape. So now, when we started having this influx of cases where we got referrals from firstly, whenever we get referrals for either child abuse, in this particular instant, it was sexual abuse, we would get what is what is called a Form 22. Ne? A Form 22, I think most of you guys are familiar with it. But for those who are not, I'll just quickly elaborate what a Form 22 is. A Form 22 is basically a form whereby any professional wants to report sexual abuse or neglect or physical abuse or emotional abuse of a child or a minor. And then it has a lot of information needed in terms of who the alleged perpetrator is, where does the child live, what's the type of abuse that was inflicted on this child. So after you do that, you fill out that form, you take it to the Department of Social Development, and then they are the ones who then they do a referral. If, for example, it came from a clinic in Bopilong, for example, in Bopilong Clinic, and then it can either, when it goes to DSD, it comes back as a referral to Rata, because Rata is the one that's servicing the area of the client indicated on the Form 22. So when it comes to us, it comes as a Form 22 referral. When it comes to us as a Form 22 referral, our objective in that matter is to go and investigate the psychosocial dynamics in that family, in terms of, okay, now this child is underage and is pregnant. What's the family system saying about this? That's our objective. When we got such cases and we would do our home visits, I was shocked at some of the responses that I got from parents. You'd find that a 15-year-old is pregnant and the person responsible for it was an 18 or a 17-year-old. And they would say they were in a relationship. She consented. Because what the social worker, who is the first to find out, does is that they open a SAPS inquiry. They are obligated to report it because it's statutory rape. They are obligated to report that, okay, I'm opening a SAPS inquiry into the pregnancy of this child. And then the parents, who are the guardians of these minors, are the ones who are now supposed to lay charges to take it further. But when we come in and we ask them, we inform them, okay, the social worker at the clinic already opened an inquiry. Are you willing to now lay charges? Nope. We're not going to lay charges because they consented. She consented. She knew what she was doing. So I don't know, how do we go about that? Because now, if the parents are now saying, I'm washing my hands, they didn't, there was no rape that happened here. What is the message that we are sending? What is the message that we are sending? Because now I don't also fully disagree with the family when they say that they were in a relationship. My point is consent, the age of consent. That child was not ready to consent according to age. But now, how do we go about that? How do we support that? Because in in some of the cases where we found that the child was actually HIV positive. And how they got that was that they were sexually abused by another family member who now infected this child. And now this child knew that she was positive, but didn't inform the boyfriend. Now it's possible that the boyfriend has it. So these are the challenges that I baffled with, because when it's like that, now the parents said, no, we're not laying charges. If they're not laying charges, the case is closed. There's literally nothing anyone can do about it after that. But now, what are we leaving this child with? What is the message that we're sending to this child when we say, no, consenting age is 16, that means you were raped technically. And now they have the concept in their mind that, okay, I was raped. Then if I was raped, what are my parents doing about it? Because they are the ones who are supposed to. And then your parents turn around and say, but you are the one who went out and had sexual interaction with this person.
On that matter, I think the issue of awareness, the education in our communities about these issues it's minimal. It's not many people who know about consenting, the age and all that. So I think if we increase the awareness for parents, the parental training you spoke about as well, if we increase the awareness, the parents will know that, okay, this was wrong, because to them it's not wrong. Mm.
And to add on that, I think you also need to emphasize on the issue of consent. What is consent first? Being in a relationship with your partner, and then it doesn't mean that automatically you are always ready to engage in sexual intercourse. Yeah, I think we also need to start
Yeah.
there.
Mm. You know, when we talk about the issue for awareness, look at the issue for COVID-19. Almost everyone, even in deep villages, they understood that there is COVID-19. Why can't we come to the place where this awareness is like this? Everyone just come to the knowledge of things like this. So I think education is very important. And if we approach the same way we approach COVID-19 and approach these issues, then everyone, even in deep villages, they will know what to do when things like this arises.
I also think specifically workshops focusing on males, because there's a lot of information about unplanned pregnancies for girls out there and so forth. But I think our men also need to be informed. Listen, you are an 18-year-old. There's this very popular 15-year-old. You need to be very cautious. Although she or 14-year-old, but she comes across as 16, she cannot consent. And you have to understand that there will be consequences, not for her, but for you. And also inform them that what are the consequences of, like I said, for under intercourse with an underage person, but also then what happens afterwards, your rights and responsibilities. Because there's also this old fashioned belief that if a mother can't take care of a child, then the maternal family steps in. No, there's a father. The father should have equal rights, should step up, take responsibility for this child, and enforce your rights. And I don't think they know it. They think, oh, I'm just the father, so I don't have the same rights as the mother. No, you have the same rights as the mother.
What happens if the father is underage as well?
Well, with a statutory rape, if both are underage, then it's not considered statutory rape. So, for instance, two 15-year-olds or two 14-year-olds, that won't be considered statutory rape. But as soon as you have a major involved or an older, a person above the age of 16 and a person below the age of 16, that's where the problem starts. And if you think about it, it might only be a year or two difference in age. So it becomes a bit gray there.
Um, don't you think that maybe the Department of Education needs in the curriculum, they have to include the course on parenting? Because we are finding that the children are becoming parent at a very tender age. Why can't they be trained earlier on how to raise these people?
I think there's the other part that says then the department is encouraging young parenting. So it's a very difficult, because if you have a look back when people started educating people on HIV and sexual orientation and sexual activity, then you get the people who say, yes, it's a good thing. Then you get the people who say, no, you are encouraging it. You're making them aware of something too early. So it is a very difficult thing, and I'm glad that I'm not tasked with that.
Yeah, looking at the challenges we are going through, is it not better to raise an awareness instead of continuing having the problem? We know we're dealing with a challenge here. Why can't we start them maybe in a life skill? You also have to train them on parenting, because this is something that we are dealing with. We can't run away from it. We need to start training them as early as possible.
Now, I agree with you. And another thing is, parents would like to think, oh, no, not my child. But I mean, even before they receive the training, they have way more knowledge than the parents would actually want to admit. So I think it's everyone needs to change their minds and realign their minds with the shifting norms and shifting what was acceptable 20 years ago, what was not acceptable 20 years ago becomes now more acceptable, whether we like it or not. And we need to adapt with the time so that we can have the proper support.
Yeah, with what you're saying, I think we should have gotten someone from the Department of Education on the panel to like try and answer some of the questions that we have, because Yeah, you raised a very valid point actually. And I can honestly say that with me as a person who does awareness as well, there are times where there's certain information I know I must divulge, but due to the sensitivity of it, and I don't know how it's going to land on the ears of the people I'll be doing this awareness with, it becomes, I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, especially when I have to do an awareness about, for example, if you were to do an awareness about sexual activity. And what I normally do is I would like to partner with a health, a professional, professional from the Department of Health, because you guys are more vested in the physicality of what happens when the child, the body changes and all of those things. But then when I come in terms of the statutory processes now. What do we say when it comes to now sexual health? Because there's certain things that are indicated in the Children's Act that if kids were to know about, I don't know how it would land
Mm.
on their ears. I honestly don't know, because that's why I'm also glad I'm not in the position
Look,
to make that.
the times that we are living in, you'll be so amazed that the children have more information than ourselves. uh, when you begin to tell them these things, you find that they know already, because we are dealing with the media. They have access with everything, and some of the cartoons that they play on these YouTubes and all that is teaching them all that. Why can't we just mitigate and counterpart whatever is happening and tell them things in advance? Because these people are more advanced than our age.
You know, we are living in times where it's scary. We are living in times where there is a lot of possibilities and impossibilities at the same time. I'm thinking if we are now to say, let's educate, let's empower, let's do awareness, but lifestyle has changed. The same kids that you're going to do awareness with or on are the kids that are going to clubs with adults voluntarily, you know. So the things that you're going to talk to them about, they either have done already, or friends are going to say, no, don't worry, friend, that one doesn't know. Or because she's an older person, she wants to stop you from living your life. So we are at a lost stage, I'm thinking, of life where they are doing their own things. We are coming here wanting to sort of educate them to, and I always say we need to tell them self-care is important. You know, don't give your off yourself, don't what. But they go with their minis to clubs, drink alcohol at the age of 14, carelessly, going with whoever the strange man they don't know. Eh, So
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
think
how we're going to match the two.
I think it's better to tell them than not. So whatever they are doing with the awareness that somebody warned me that if I do something like this will happen. At least as parents, as a community, as the elders, we have played the role of educating them, bringing the awareness. So whatever is happening, they will know, oh, they told me and I did this, I didn't listen. At least on our part, we have done our role.
I also don't think the parents can simply move the responsibility to other people. The responsibility starts at home. Each parent has a responsibility to sit their child down, and whether they want to hear it or not, you need to have certain conversations with them. And then maybe if we can create a platform where the introduction can be done, the parents have the knowledge, the introduction is done, and they can then refer them to the platform or wherever where they can get more information or know where they can go for help or questions, or because there, there will be no use to preach to someone who's not willing to listen. It will be a waste of resources and energy. So I think it would be better to have certain facilities or platforms available to ask anonymous questions, for instance. Um, but the parents need to understand responsibility starts at home.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's getting there now. Yeah. With what we've been talking about, this actually leads us to the second question, which is, in light of the shifting norms around marriage, parenting, and family structures, do you think what do you think is the most important aspect of families that should be preserved? What important aspect of families that should be preserved with all that we have unpacked so far?
Okay, can I go in? I think let's go back to the concept of who started this idea. The family concept obviously is God. And as I said in the beginning, that it was between a husband and a wife in a setup of a marriage. So I think the most important, everything starts in marriage. So I think the most important concept or idea in terms of family that we always have to drive to the next generation is the issue of marriage. If we work on marriages, we would have work on communities, we have work on a nation. So on my side, I think marriage is the most important part of the family concept.
I think if we can get back to a sense of unity and mutual respect and love for each other, we can somehow rescue um, where things have gone wrong. Like a simple something, now we're living in days where, let me start by saying, in olden days, I would automatically know it's Christmas, I would visit my aunt together with my other siblings, and auntie will welcome us. Maybe next year, Christmas is we visit another aunt. We rotate like that. Now it doesn't happen anymore because this aunt doesn't speak to that aunt. That one is fighting with that one. Therefore, the kids are not allowed. Yes, the economy also contributes to that, but we don't have that sense of unity anymore. Therefore, we are not doing things together. Our kids know that I'm an only child. It's just me, my mother, and my father. Other relatives know. So they grow up like that. So we don't have that sense of love, mutual love, and that sense of unity. If we can recover that, I think somehow we might get back on track. Mm.
I think family should be looked at as an institution. So if the institution is not functional, then there is no family. So I think each and every household has its responsibility to make that the institution function properly, not just making sure that the bread is on the table, but starting with the morals, the principle of this particular house, so that when they go out there to the community, they also reflect what has been taught from their families. So I think it should start even with this nuclear family, and then it can be escalated to extended families. And then, like she said already, that nowadays it's just papa, mama, and the child. Then we are family. Then we don't care who is the aunt, who is your uncle, who is your so and so. So maybe we also
With a point of the premarital counseling that must happen. Does it really take place a lot as it should?
Yeah, looking at the seasons have changed, times have evolved. As a church, our constitution is that before you get married, we have to take you through premarital counseling. But you find that people are so in hurry that they don't want to go through the process. The next thing, as a pastor, you are told, we are getting married tomorrow. The parents are being told, we are getting married and you're not going to stop us. So you find everything is just running so quick that the processes of getting into marriage, we are bypassing them. And that's why we find that marriages are no longer working, because we didn't take the people through the right processes that will now make their marriage to last. So, in answering your question, it's marriage is something between two people. We need to agree first, and then when we begin to tell our pastors, everyone, then we get them into the process of preparing for that marriage. But it would, in my position as a pastor, it's no longer happening the way it should, depending on the patient of the two people. But many of the people are not patient at all.
I I want to say it's important that when people are in a relationship, they start talking about what actually a marriage is. So we find that people get excited about the wedding more than they get to understand what the marriage is. A lot of couples that would, if they come for counseling, premarital counseling, they don't even know the type of marriages that are there, but they set a date. So how do you then, and with you coming now to say, please go to see a lawyer, go to court and find out, get the documents, read them, understand what you're getting into. It's like you're negative now. You don't want to encourage their love, basically. So I think yeah, unfortunately, we are not a human nature that communicates openly about a whole lot of dynamics. Because even when I always say in the lobola negotiations, what's being discussed besides money? Shouldn't things like type of marriages be discussed? Shouldn't things like family setup systems and all be discussed as well, so that they themselves take a responsibility of telling the younger ones that this is what you're getting into. Choose wisely. Are you sure? There's never are you sure you want to get this married to this person? So it's yeah, we get excited about the wedding. The rest we'll see. Mm.
I fully agree with you, and I see it a lot in practice with the family, with the Lobola negotiations and the traditional wedding, and it's all about exchanging goats and gifts and money. And then a lot of people come to me afterwards and they say, okay, we've done this now. We please want an antenuptial contract. And then I have to explain to them that although you haven't registered the wedding, the marriage at Home Affairs, that your marriage is already recognized. And by entering into a traditional marriage, you have elected to get married in community of property. You can't fix that. The only way to fix that is to bring in High Court application. It needs to be advertised in the newspaper, and the marriage regime needs to be changed to out of community of property. The other option is you get divorced, but that would be fraud because you can't get divorced if the marriage hasn't broken down irretrievably. So your only option would be to bring in High Court application, which would cost you thousands to change your marital regime. And they don't
Yeah.
discuss the traditional.
Yeah. Please continue.
No, so that's something I find so often, and people get angry with me because I don't want to help them. Yes, but I mean the law's clear. A traditional marriage, a customary marriage remains a valid marriage, irrespective if it's registered at Home Affairs or not.
Right. So now, in essence, what we are saying is that the reason, like, this is the importance of premarital counseling. You see, now things start coming up. And when we are looking at now marriage contracts, can you just, like, at the top of your head, just give us like the type of marriage contract and like just the important points of each that people need to be aware of.
Okay, so basically, if you get married in terms of a civil marriage that get registered at Home Affairs, or you enter into a customary marriage, that's a traditional marriage. Um, you are married in community of property automatically. unless you elect to register an antenuptial contract. But you also have to be cautious because in some instances, it has been found that although a formal handing over has not taken place, but through the testimony and the evidence about what happened at the Lobola negotiations, that can be seen as a marriage already. So then, if you have not entered into an antenuptial contract prior to that, you are married in community of property. What's yours is mine, what's mine is yours. So that is all the lovely things you would like to share in, but unfortunately also all the debt, all the unfortunate things you would actually not like to be part in. Yes, and then everything might seem great now, and then a few years down the line, your spouse decides to go into business, make a few bad decisions. You're going to share in that Great. Okay, so that's in community of property. Then you have two options. You can get married out of community of property with the accrual system or without the accrual system. So we'll start off with the without the accrual system. That is the most basic one where you say, what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours, and it stays like that forever. We have two separate estates from now until the marriage is dissolved forever and ever. Then, with the accrual system, is you say, this is what is mine. X, Y, Z is what I have before the marriage. X, Y, Z is what you have before the marriage. And as soon as we enter into the marriage, whatever is not excluded before the marriage takes into account in how your estate accrued. And then there's a calculation that gets done at the end of the day when the marriage comes to an end through divorce or death or whatever reason. So the most important thing is you need to sign an antenuptial contract before your marriage. It doesn't have to be registered before your marriage. It just needs to be signed and then it gets registered in the deeds office. So you can have it done individually between you two, but then it's not enforceable against third parties. So you have to have it formally done, notarized, and then registered in the deeds office.
Because the reason why I brought this topic up is because as the initial question we said what is families, right? And we have blended families. With blended families, you'd find, for example, that we have this couple, they're previously divorced, and now they want to enter into a union together, and they have children from the previous marriages. What now do we say about that marriage? Like, what type of marriage contract should they be looking into? Because I've had clients where mostly women who have indicated that they are in new relationships. They would like to get married to this person, but they themselves were previously divorced. Now they don't want they want to be out of community of property. But at the same time, you'd find that they don't fully understand when you say out of community of property. Like if it's out, do you want it in accrualty or out of accrualty? You see, and then it comes in and they elaborate. No, from my previous divorce, I got a house, I got this, I got this, and these are the things that I want kept for my kids. Because now the thing that comes up the most is that what if something happens to me? Then what happens to my kids? Because the marriage I'm in, it's not particularly their biological father, but I want them to be left with an asset or an estate that belongs to me. So, how do we go about like advising, or I don't know, how do we, because um I think it's not only the mothers as well, but also the fathers. Nowadays, when I speak to young men, and they indicate that, hey, marriage for them is a challenge because every time there's a divorce, the woman gets everything. Automatically, the woman gets everything. The woman gets the house and gets this, and there's the spousal allowance and all of those things. But what I want to understand is, can spousal allowance go both ways?
Yes, it can. Um, there has been a clean break principle incorporated in law. So the days where the woman simply got maintenance for the rest of their lives until they get remarried or pass away, those days are gone. Yes, you do get them in special instances. But the reality is, we now have rehabilitative maintenance, where they afford maintenance to any spouse to afford them the opportunity to get back on their feet. So it will be a few years, so it's rehabilitative. And you have a right to spousal maintenance if you are in a marriage. It's not limited to a gender or anything. So both parties can have a claim for spousal maintenance. It all depends on the other person's ability and your need.
If I'm employed and my soon to be ex is unemployed, then I can support him.
He can claim for rehabilitative spousal maintenance, yes.
Now I wanna ask, I always ask my couples to go seek legal advice. So where should I refer them? Is it the family court? Is it individual lawyer? I'm lost with that because I just ask them if you can afford a lawyer, go see a lawyer. But then if they don't have money, where should I send them?
Well, if they don't have money, there is legal clinics available. For instance, um, Varsity College has a legal clinic. University of Pretoria has a legal clinic. There's legal aid. So they can obtain legal advice from different entities. And then there's also the pro bono committee, where people who do not have money can go to apply for legal assistance, because all attorneys are obliged to do at least 48 hours pro bono per year.
How do they then find out about that pro bono?
How it works is the client goes to the pro bono committee at the Law Society, or rather, my apologies, the Legal Practice Council. Um, they submit an application, they get screened, and then the Legal Practice Council sends an instruction to the attorneys with the details and the contact details, and you have to um, do certain hours of pro bono or finalize the matter. And then afterwards, you fill in a certificate and submit it to the Legal Practice Council to say this is the amount of pro bono hours I did on this matter.
Very informative. And just on that matter as well, from the mental health side, how do you think um your services would benefit couples when it comes to like marriage and premarital counseling or in marriage when there's disputes?
Um, I think, okay, in my experience, I've seen couples whereby only a female would initiate such conversation of premarital counseling, and then the males will go like, I'll accompany you. So so um with premarital counseling, I think people don't really understand what it is. They feel like it's just going in front of the pastor, psychologist, or whoever to listen to them talking. They think psychologists will tell them this is how to run the marriage, blah, 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 blah. And then they try to avoid deeper issues or the reality of what marriage is. So, also the premarital counseling, most of the blacks, unfortunately, they feel like families can only provide such. Like in black cultures, they will take the bride to the older women who are already married or have experience in marriages. So then they tell the bride, this is what we do in marriage. You must never run away from your marriage. You must resolve your issues. We don't divorce in this family. When you have issues, we call the uncles, the aunts, and then to come and resolve your issues. Wherever there is also a modernized way whereby you can seek like services of pastor, psychologist to address the real deeper issues of marriage.
Yeah. Talking about marriages, because that's where many things are going wrong. Having, as a pastor, having to deal with people that are now in marriage in terms of mental, and you discover in the journey that the person you are married to have bipolar or they have schizophrenic. But before you enter marriage, you didn't actually know that you're getting into a marriage where somebody has a problem like that. And we find that it's now affecting the marriage and it's affecting the children as well. And I think because we are in the discussion now, I think the issue of premarital counseling, where you see a person have to be clear if they have in their family they have mental problem or things like this. How do we now resolve that? Before I get married, I just want to know your record, if you have a mental problem or what, so that I know that even in marriage I'm ready to handle such cases. I had to deal with one case where this couple, they got married, and in the process the guy is finding out that the person I'm married to have bipolar condition, and is blaming everyone that if you told me that I'm dealing with a person like this, maybe I could have come being ready to handle such cases. So how do we come about? Because I'm thinking when I meet you, I'm thinking you are fine, but you have a mental problem that is going to affect me as well. How do we handle that uh, premaritally? Is there an education like that?
First, we need to make our clients, I don't know how you call them, your congregants, maybe that come for counseling. That premarital counseling is not a once-off session. The problem is that's their mindset and therefore the approach. That's why most of the time it's done maybe a few months prior to the wedding. And a lot of things can be covered, honestly speaking. Um, the number two thing, we need to realize that people don't like disclosing about their mental health issues, even as simple as basic as anxiety or depression or the fact that I'm taking medication for. Um, Therefore, it's not easy for one to say, and they refuse coming to us psychologists for premarital counseling because I would pick up something, maybe highlight on it, and they don't like it because indirectly I'm disclosing. So they'd rather go the church route. I always tell my couples, go the church route, go the psychologist route, cover the both, but it's not a once-off session. So they come pressed of time as well. And I also tell clients, same religious or cultural beliefs are important because now I'm coming from traditional churches. You are coming from Bazalwanes. Where are we going to do our premarital counseling? When I get there to your church, I feel I don't belong. I feel like maybe I'm isolated because of the principles there. So I don't know. I don't know. The just life on its own and the way we have evolved and adopted certain ways of doing things have made other things impossible or complicated.
I, although I agree that the counseling before the marriage is very important, I think it should not stop there. I think that should be the first thing. But then before people decide to bring children into this world, they should go for counseling. I think that could even be more important than marital counseling. Because I, for one, has a very strong belief that adults make certain decisions and they need to take responsibility for certain decisions. But once a minor child is involved, that child's best interest is of paramount importance. They can't do it themselves. So I think it's very important that before anyone decides to have children, is to go for counseling. Because some people even think if they have problems in the marriage, the solution is to have children. And that only adds to it. And I think bringing children into this world is even more challenging, and bringing them up and giving them the principles and acting in their best interest is even more challenging than a marriage. But you need to have that foundation and then it needs to carry over because we're missing something with our kids.
Yeah, just to for us to it's almost time up, but just to grab on the last question here. What is the future of the concept of family? Like, especially globally as well, increasing diversity. Like, what do we say are going to be like the changes that we foresee, especially in our fields when it comes to families? Like, what is the changes that you think might happen in future? When you forecast the concept of families, what do you foresee?
I think at the beginning you mentioned that we must not forget that we also have same-sex parenting now. So the future of families diversity. So what used to be family maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, the definition has changed now into something else. Now you have mama and mama, papa and papa, not mama and papa. So um and then I think we also need to acclimatize to that. And then also we are sort of obliged to also educate our children so that when my children see their friends with papa and papa, they don't get to ask questions, or they know that there is papa and papa, then this side there is mama and papa. So yeah.
I I foresee the sort of, for a lack of a better word, the fragmentation, the chaos that we are seeing escalating. More so now because we are having people that are saying, as a single mother, I don't want to involve the father of the child in my child's life because 1, 2, 3 has happened, because blah blah blah, a lot of other things. So already that is taking a decision on the type of family system they want. They are already taking a decision on what's to happen with the child. That is the one. The two, we're living in times where people say, I'm going to relocate to Australia because I want nothing to do with my family. Therefore, going, staying there and developing their own family with whoever, wherever. Again, we're having now people saying, I don't want children because of the trauma that I have experienced, because of this breakdown that they're seeing. So I see everything escalating. How are we going to bring it together? Because now we're living in time. I always say we forget that we are going to be the generation of grandparents. It's because now we're taking wisdom from them, we're taking guidance from them, but we are soon coming. Where are we at now? that we're going to impart into the coming generations? I don't know.
Yeah. According to my um, view, yeah. According to my um, view, I'm foreseeing a division based on the beliefs. There are those that will still believe in the family concept, and there are those that have adjusted from the family concept. And now we are dealing with the artificial intelligent family concept as well. So I see a lot of division. There are people that still believe in morals. There are people that still believe in family concept. I see that there will be groups, and that will bring division among humanity based on the beliefs. I believe that there are still people who will carry over with the family concept and teaching their children as well the family concept. But there are those that will be like, this is how we do family. So there's going to be a lot of division that will bring like a civil war among humanity, because I believe in this, you believe in that, you believe in that, and there will be a lot of division that we'll be dealing with in the workplaces, in churches, environment, everywhere. We'll just be dealing with the social divisions.
I also do agree with you guys there so far, because I also see like an escalation of some of these issues that we have, because also with the digital age, oh, our digital age, it's how I can say it is, with a lot of things that people can find online now, we no longer have that thing where families used to sit together and pass down knowledge just together over cookies and tea or over grandma stories. It's lost. Those things are lost now, and we're always here. Our kids, they're always here.
We have um, grandchildren beating up their grandmothers.
Mm,
So yeah, that respect that I was talking
mm,
about is there. So the wisdom that I'm talking about that we can get from grandparents, now they're being disrespected.
mm,
They're not regarded as important. They
mm.
are regarded as illiterate.
Because it's also very disheartening to actually think about, because when you actually do sit down with an older person and you just ask them, how is it at home? You could cry. You would cry, because you'd find that the people they have brought into this world, the generation that they have brought into this world, has become animals in the house. They're victimizing older people, and now you ask yourself now, if the generation that is meant to carry on the baton and to nurture the coming generation after them, they're now victimizing where they come from, where are we going as a society? How are we going to be able to harness cultural history and societal history and passing it on, so that we ensure that the society that comes after us, or the civilization that comes after us, is one that is better than us? But we are currently failing. We are currently failing. Yeah.
Well, I think the reality is that there is an increased diversity in family structure, and we will have to adapt to that. We can't fall behind. Luckily, from a law perspective, the South African law is trying to evolve with the change. For instance, a few years ago, a customary marriage wasn't recognized as legal marriage. Now it's recognized. The basic conditions of the Employment Act was amended to not only limit maternity leave to just the mother, but where adoptive parents and fathers can now take 10 days leave when a child comes into a family. So there is some transformation, and I think transformation will have to continue to take place. Another thing that would become more important as the time evolves is we see a lot of people leaving the country, trying to flee the country to get rid of their responsibilities. If I'm not here, I cannot pay maintenance, or I want to avoid paying maintenance, or whatever the case might be. But there is a reciprocal enforcement we have with other countries for maintenance, but we need to strengthen those ties. For instance, in America, we only have that agreement with 2 states. I was actually informed by the Department of Constitutional Development in January of this year that, sorry, the maintenance cannot be enforced. We only have agreement with 2 states in America. And I mean, everyone's leaving the country. So we will have to adapt more and transform more to change with the times.
Yeah, with what you said, Azal, with we need to transform. We need to transform, and I can also say, from social work, what I've seen so far is that now, unmarried fathers are now catching on. Unmarried fathers are now catching on when it comes to their parental rights and responsibilities. We are getting an influx of applications where fathers want access to their kids. They want to be a part of their kids' lives. They want the child to know them. They want to build a bond with them. And that's a good thing. I honestly see it as a good thing because what I've seen also is that mostly because of that part where we were talking about of premarital counseling, when it didn't happen, or maybe it didn't even get to the marriage part, it was just the relationship, and the relationship didn't work out for whatever reason. Now me as the mother, I'm using this child to try to get even with you based on what happened between us. The child has nothing to do with it. The child has nothing to do with it. All I have to do is to just give you access to the child and allow the child to have the relationship with the father. So that's the type of transformation I'm seeing in social work side. That yeah, fathers are actually now starting to step up, and now even because I know that there are others who might think that I'm unemployed, what do I have to offer? Raising a child is not about finances only. There's a role that you can play emotionally. There's a role that you can play, mentally with the child as well. Practically, just even if you don't have money to take me out to the mall or to buy me clothes, just being there, walking me to school, talking to me, attending the meetings, simple things, simple things. And that's things that I think with also empowering the public, we need to let them know as often as we can, because with fathers, I think sometimes they tend to give up because they think that the law is on the side of the mothers always. You see,
I think when it comes to the fathers, we also need to take out the stigma or the the value that a man is money. Because when you come to us women, if the father does not have money, he's not a father. Then we remove our children from their fathers because they do not have money. So it comes to educating women as well, the importance of a relationship between a father and a child. Because most of the time as women, we always poison our children against their fathers because they do not have the means or the resources to raise them. Because now it's like we are more empowered, we have all the resources, and the men now is just eventually they disconnect themselves from the child because I don't have money to maintain the child. So I think as women, we always have women gatherings and all that. I think we need to teach women as well the importance of a relationship outside the resources. Mm.
On that note, it's very important, and our even our constitution is quite clear. There cannot be any discrimination. So there cannot be any discrimination whether you're male or female. The moral of the story is you're a parent, and as soon as you're a parent, you have certain rights and responsibilities. And those rights include the right to contact with your child and the responsibility to maintain your contact, to maintain your child financially. But it's important, it's not one aspect, it's two completely different aspects. It gets ventilated in two different courts. So if you do not pay for your child, it doesn't exclude you from having a relationship with that child. You cannot say the father or the mother is not paying for the child, therefore there cannot be contact. And on the other side, you can pay hundreds of thousands a month. That does not give you the entitlement to see the child. Those two aspects, and people always get it wrong. The contact and the finances has nothing to do with each other. It's two completely different things. And it's more and more that I, in private practice, have fathers approaching me for primary care and contact, primary resident. But it's important, even if you don't have a cent to provide, you still have the right to have contact with that child.
Now, with that being said, ladies, I truly appreciate your input today with the session. I really believe that this was a very fruitful session. We've learned a lot from each other, and I believe we need more spaces like this where we can bounce off ideas of each other and get to hear what the other professionals do. How do they do things? How do they, how do they see things, so that it not only empowers the community, but we are also empowering ourselves as well, because we know now where to refer what. Now who we are also building a network as we are here. So I know leaving here, I know I now have a lawyer, I have a pastor, I have a psychologist. I have it. Yes, it's very important, And with that being said, um, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I would love to extend it again to next year if you are game to do it again. If we can have another go at it, tackling another topic as well. And please, I would like to extend this invitation that if you also have a topic that you would like us to unpack, please do so. Forward it to us and we'll discuss it. And who knows, next year we could be looking at a topic about mental health. You see, yeah, and how we each in our professions can actually help one another to, capacitate the mental health profession as well. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for everyone's time to be.
Yeah. No, thank you very much. It was an insightful. You might think you're coming with information, but you're coming to also learn. So thank you so much.
On my side, I just wanted to say thank you as well. I just discovered the people that I need to work with in Pretoria West, because our church is in Pretoria West. So when I have mental problem, clinical, I know who to speak to. And you are here, she is here. So together we will bring change to our world. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I've realized everyone is very much important. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, that family is an institution. If then it's not functional, then it's broken. So all of us, each one of us attend to their own aspect of life. So thank you so much for beautiful conversation. It was an honor being in your presence. Yes, and I was just hijacked. Come, let's go. So I've benefited so much. Thank you so much. Hi guys. Oh, thank you very much for attending this family dialogue for Rata Social Services. Your expertise, yeah, I can listen that, yeah. This is really good. Our lawyer will learn a lot. That side, our nurse, our pastor, this it connect very well. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much to taking your time to come here to have this discussion with us. So during the session, I noted several areas there and there. I think we need to collaborate further and share more information amongst our colleagues and then also to do more. As my colleagues say, next year we can come up with another topic and do more. And then I'll keep in contact for follow-ups and everything, but also awareness. Yeah, as our pastor says, awareness. If we give out the key of information, I think we'll make it. As we say, we change brokenesses to wholenesses as Rata Social Services. Thank you very much.